So it's back in 2016 and I'm 17 years old at the time and I'm going to a nightclub for one of the first times in my life. Now, yeah, I'm 17 years old, right? And I'm underage going to a nightclub. Don't report this to the police. But anyway, so I'm in a nightclub. I'm 17 years old. One of my first experiences, right? So I'm feeling a bit dirty. Like I'm in a nightclub for the first time. And to this point, I had always looked down on like the party lifestyle. I looked down on people drinking. I looked down on people partying and I was like, oh my God, why would you put alcohol into your body? Do you know what it does to you? It damages you. It's literally poison, bro. Why would you put alcohol in your body, right? Like I was so against alcohol, so against partying, so against smoking, right? But here I was at a nightclub. Somehow my friends had convinced me to go. And I was feeling dirty. I was like,
oh no, I hope my teachers don't find out that I'm literally going to a nightclub, that I'm living like a degenerate, right?
Because like at that point, I had always been like I had always worshipped my teachers basically. Like I had always like wanted to impress them, wanted them to think that I was so cool, so good. So I was always that good boy around my teachers, right? So I was like, oh man, I hope my teachers don't find out that I'm at a nightclub. Hope my parents don't find out. So here I'm at this nightclub, you know, trying to interact with people, feeling kind of out of place. But I look into the crowd and I see someone who looks familiar. Like I've seen this person before. They're standing there in the crowd wearing a shirt, like a button-up shirt or whatever, but they look familiar. And I realized that that person standing in the crowd over there is my physics teacher. My physics teacher. Someone who, you know, the last person I would expect to be in a nightclub was literally standing there, drinking, drunk probably, at a nightclub, right? This was in Indonesia, by the way, at a nightclub. And at that moment, I was like, holy cow. Teachers are not these like gods, these like, you know, super intelligent beings that I thought they were. You know, I thought they were like the perfect human, these people that we had to look up to, these people that guided us, helped us in life. Suddenly I realized they're just people too. They can be alcoholics too. They can be terrible people too. Teachers are not these like gods that we look up to. And at that moment, I was like, okay, oh my goodness, then who am I meant to look up to? Who do I look up to guide me in my life? And that was like one of the moments where I felt like our destiny is in our own hands, right? So anyway, in this video, I'm gonna explain to you 3 ways that the education system has, you know, you basically has kind of like traumatized you sort of for your life. So here's the first thing I can tell you, right? The problem with school is pushing you down one life path, right? There are multiple life paths you can take, but what school tells you is this is how you live your life. You get good grades, which will help you go to university. You get good grades in university, that will help you get a job, and you do your job for the rest of your life. You get better and better and better, and hopefully one day you can retire and be happy. That's basically the life path that school pushes you down. Now, nothing against this life path. I'm not saying it's bad. There's something wrong with it. But there are so many other options out there for life paths you can take. For example, this life path will never make you rich, for example. Like, let's say you wanted to buy a Lamborghini. In this life path, to getting a job, making like $200,000 a year, it would take you literally like 100 years of saving just to buy a Lamborghini. Yet there are people out there who own like 10 Lamborghinis. Now, I'm not trying to say that like, oh, you should like get a Lamborghini, you should get rich. But I'm just telling you that there are life paths out there that school doesn't show you. First of all, you don't even have to go to university. You can go into like trades or something. You can like do low skilled jobs. You don't have to go to university. But what do schools tell you? They tell you you have to go to university. Like I remember in my school, there was a couple teachers, their jobs were literally to help students get into university. And every student, it was mandatory for them to apply for universities. So I was literally there talking to the teacher and she was like helping me apply to universities. I had no choice. I had to apply for universities. So this school was literally forcing us down one path. You got to ask yourself, why do they want to do this? Why do they want to force you to go to university when there are other paths out there? Well, first of all, they might not even be familiar with other paths, right? Like teachers, the only life they know is going to university, getting a job, right? And like working that job or whatever. Then they haven't been introduced to other life paths. So that's all they know. That's what they're teaching you. Like I heard this thing where it's like, don't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be, right? So would you take fitness advice from like a super skinny guy? Probably not, right? So why are you taking career advice from a teacher who's not making that much money, who's like probably an alcoholic going to the nightclubs on a weekend? No disrespect to them or anything. And they only know this one life path. Now, I'm not saying they're like bad people, they're horrible people, and never listen to them. But like one way the school system fucks you is you need to be introduced to more life paths, more options out there. There's not only one life path, there's not only one way to live your life. And I think one of the best ways to do this is to get knowledge, learn from experience from other people outside your teachers. Your teachers are just one source of life experience. But if you read books for example, you can get introduced, exposed to many more other life opportunities, life possibilities. For example, I read this book like a year ago, 2 years ago for the first time, called The 4-Hour Workweek. And it blew my mind because it basically told me that there are many more life paths that you can choose apart from like the 40-hour workweek. You can literally, your lifestyle is literally in your hands. How you want to live is literally in your hands. Because the 40-hour workweek is a new invention. It's only been around since like the Industrial Revolution. Like in caveman times, farmer times, people weren't working 40 hours a week. Like cavemen were probably like hunting for a couple hours a day, and the rest of the day they were chilling, eating, hanging out with their families, right? So the 40-hour workweek is only one life path. And school makes you feel like it's the only life path. But if you expose yourself to other opportunities in life, like reading books or learning about other opportunities like the trades or other things you want, you can like realize that there's much more opportunities in life than just university, just a 40-hour work week. But schools want to push you into university because it helps them. Like my school used to flex on all the amazing universities the students used to go to. Like it used to flex that it had like a 98% university entrance rate or something like that. So that's why they push you, one of the reasons they push you down into university, because it helps them. So that's the first way the school system fucks you. It only gives you one life path. Now the second thing is schools make you hate learning. So when we're children, when we're young, we love to learn, right? Like kids are naturally curious. Like when I was a kid, I was asking like a million questions. I was like, hey, you know, why are frogs green? Like where's Brazil? Like I was asking all these like questions that I was curious about. I was always curious, exploring the world. But then once I went into the school system and suddenly my learning was put into like a testing system. I didn't learn for curiosity. I didn't learn to make my life better and follow my curiosities. Suddenly I was learning because I had to get good grades to impress my teachers, impress my parents, and to have a good life. Suddenly learning became this stressful task. And this is one of the worst parts about the school system. It's very sad. It makes students hate learning. Most students stop learning when they leave university. But I strongly believe in being a student for life. Never stop learning. Because when you stop learning, that's when you stop growing. That's when your life stops improving. This is why I think it's so sad when students leave university and they stop learning. Like I think even when you're not in university, you should be reading, you should be learning, you should be hungry for knowledge, you should follow your curiosities. So there's this video I made, like 5 ways you can read better. Go watch that. It'll tell you how you can read in a much more satisfying way to basically fix this trauma that the school system gave you to hate learning, because learning is one of the best parts about life, in my opinion. A truly amazing thing. So learn better, basically. That's all I can say. The final thing I can tell you about school system, it basically makes you comfortable being average. So let me explain this a bit. There's this quote that I'm sure you've heard that's completely like I'm sure you agree with. It says that you are the average of the 5 people you most hang around, right? Well, here's the thing. If the kids in your school are like very low quality, they torture their bodies, they do like these degenerate habits, you're gonna become like them. Whether you like it or not, you're going to be influenced by them. Like I hear so much these days about what high school is like. And apparently many kids these days in high school, they're like hitting vapes all day. And like, it was the same when I was in high school. Pretty much everyone around me was a vapor. And I was literally this close to getting into vaping. I was this close to developing a nicotine vape addiction, right? Simply because all the students around me were like that. Because of all the students around me, I developed a video game addiction. I developed, all these habits, right? Imagine if I went to a school with kids who were into like boxing and who were really into sports and stuff. I would be a completely different person because the people around you literally influence you. So it does depend on the school you go to, but for the most part, most kids in school are like average, right? No disrespect to them, that's just statistics, right? So you're going to be average by simply being around them. This is why I know many students will relate to this. They feel out of place in school, right? Like many kids who are trying to improve their lives these days in high school and stuff, they feel so out of place. They feel like they can't relate to the kids around them. Let me know in the comments if this is true, if you agree with this. But it can be kind of tough if the people you're exposed to every day live the life that you don't want to live. And you're being kind of like subtly influenced by them. If you try to live a different life, you try to live better, they'll kind of subtly put you down, right? That's one of the problems with the education system. It makes you comfortable being average. This is why I think it can be good to like follow people on social media, people you look up to. Because like, for example, I'm not saying watch my videos, but if you find people on YouTube who you look up to and you relate to and you like want to be like them, consuming their content can kind of like like be that fifth friend that you have that's like influencing you in a positive way, right? Like it can be like when I'm talking in these videos, it can be like I'm talking to you as a friend and I'm kind of like subtly influencing you. So if you want to be more like me, maybe you don't, but if you want to be more like me, that for example, then watching my videos could like subtly influence you. I could be that fifth friend out of the 5 people you most interact with who's influencing you. So that's another way that the school system will fuck you. It'll expose you to like an average lifestyle, a lifestyle that maybe you don't want to live. Because maybe you want to live a life different to most people, right? Maybe you want to, stay away from all these bad habits that are ruining your health, ruining your life. And you want to get more into that kind of minimalist life where you're working hard, you're ambitious, you want to achieve some big things in your life. But if the people around you aren't doing that, right, then you're not going to relate to them. You're going to feel out of place and you're going to be subtly influenced by them. So that's another way the education system can kind of mess you up. You can't build your own tribe. You're kind of forced into a tribe of these people, right? Like I remember there was this kid, he would always, this is weird as hell, he would watch porn in class. Like looking back, it was hilarious. There was this kid who would literally, I would sit next to him, right? And while the teacher was talking, explaining stuff, he'd have his phone on the table and he'd be like watching porn, right? Like it was pretty funny, but like, you know what I mean? Like some students, they're just like, they do some weird stuff and they're gonna like subtly influencing you in like weird ways, right? Like just because I was sitting next to this kid, I was watching porn every day in class, right? So yeah, that's the third thing. People can influence you in your school, in your classes without your consent, without your choice. So let me know if you agree with any of these or disagree. See you later.